Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Russell Matthews here, and there could be some major changes coming down the pipelines for Canadians across the country when it comes to the way they spend their money and the way they plan for the future. Over the next couple of weeks, the Canadian government is set to release a fiscal update, and this is going to include a whole bunch of information in terms of how much money they've spent to deal with the whole COVID pandemic, and information about some future benefits that they might bring in, as well as other changes to programs and benefits that you could be entitled to receive. Now, this won't have as much detail as a traditional budget that the government would release, but it will give Canadians a better idea of how much money has been spent to deal with this COVID pandemic, and also the likelihood that they will continue to spend to maybe extend benefits or introduce new ones. Now, we can't know for sure exactly what's going to be included in this update because it hasn't been released yet, but there has been a lot of speculation from a bunch of different people about what is most likely to be included in this update. So in today's video, we're going to dive deep into those rumors on what could be included in this so we can keep our eyes out for them when they actually release this update. After all, the goal of this channel is to get information to Canadians as quickly as possible about anything that could potentially affect their financial futures. So if you're interested in that, make sure to hit all those buttons down there, like, subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. I'm coming out with updates like this all the time, so I'm going to see you in that next video. But the first thing we're expecting to see in this update is some information about the potential new Pharmacare Act that could be brought in by the federal government. As it stands right now, many prescription drugs aren't free for Canadians, and they're forced to pay for this every single month. Now, there are different plans in different provinces, and they all work to varying degrees of success, but there has been increased pressure on the federal government, especially from the NDP, to bring in a universal plan that would guarantee this free prescription medication for all Canadians. But there is some drama around this issue. Many political parties are saying, hey, you know what? The provincial government can handle this, and many provinces are doing quite a good job of it, so we don't need this federal pharmacare, and those provinces who are doing well should be able to keep their programs. So a lot of people think that we should be sticking to this provincial system instead of making this a national coverage of all pharmacare and all prescription drugs for Canadians. And of course, a concern for a lot of people is how the government is going to pay for a program like this. I mean, they're already spending so much on these COVID-related benefits. Do we really have the budget to cover this? But at the same time, there are a lot of economists who are saying it's actually not as big of a deal as we thought to run a deficit year over year, and that we should be more focused on bringing the programs that Canadians need to them than actually trying to balance the budget. And this is something that's gaining a lot of traction as people are realizing that maybe the federal government doesn't need to run its budget in the same way that a family does, making sure it doesn't spend as much as it makes, and that running a deficit isn't a huge deal because we are the ones that print the currency. At least this is the opinion of a lot of modern economists. We're also expecting to see some increased spending on transit. Now, as of COVID, of course, there's been a huge decrease in the ridership of major transit commissions across the country. I know in the TTC, they're still seeing, as of right now in November, a 50% dip in the amount of ridership when compared to last year at the same time. But even with that dramatically reduced ridership, many people are expecting that there will be increased spending in transit to sort of subsidize these systems so that the people who need access to this transit most will still be able to get it, even though this transit system isn't going to be able to turn a profit or even get close to breaking even. It also seems like there's going to be an increased emphasis on environmental and social concerns. And one major aspect of this is the whole housing problem that we're seeing all across the country. We've talked about this a little bit with the Canadian government's Rapid Housing Initiative, and I made a video about it a little while ago about these modular homes that you can sort of stack on top of each other like Lego so that you can construct them super quickly. If you're interested in that and learning a little bit more, check that video out that I've linked in the description there. On the environmental side of things, we could see this implemented through a various number of tax credits that maybe would give homeowners the ability to renovate their homes to make them more energy efficient. Now, this specific tax credit isn't as helpful for people who are renting right now, but I just made a video on this channel a little while ago about how you can dramatically reduce the taxes that you're going to pay on your CRB and your CERB come April 2020. So if you want to reduce the amount you're going to have to pay back to the CRA, check out that video down in the description, and it has a lot of information there that even if you don't own a home, you can take advantage of these tax credits so you don't have to pay a boatload of money back. It's even more likely now that there could be more environmental focus in this financial update, since a little while ago, Tiff Macklem, who's the governor of the Bank of Canada, recommended to the government that they should do more to financially incentivize investments in environmentally conscious investment opportunities. Here's the headline from that report. It says that he said that Canada needs to pick up the pace on tackling climate change. And actually, there was one interesting quote in this article that I thought would be especially applicable to everybody here on this channel, and we'll scroll down here, and that's right here. And it says that Tiff Macklem and the Bank of Canada recommended a suite of options to the federal Liberals, which asked for the report, and that's to include tax credits to encourage Canadians to put their retirement savings into climate-conscious investments. Now, the reason this is so interesting is because on this channel we talk a lot about investing in a TFSA or an RRSP. These are tax-sheltered accounts that will allow you to invest without having to pay an additional tax on the growth of these investments. And this sounds like they could potentially be mulling over the option of creating another account that would allow you to put these savings towards environmentally conscious investments in companies that maybe have a certification that shows that they're operating in an environmentally friendly way. And as a result, you could put your money into that company in an investment and not have to pay federal capital gains tax on this. This could be a huge deal for a lot of investors, depending on what this account could look like. And this makes a lot of sense, especially these days, as more and more people are discovering ESG investing. And this stands for environmental, social, and governance investing. And the base idea of it is that people are becoming more conscious about the companies they invest in based on their environmental views, their social views, and the way that that company affects society in general. So if we're seeing more and more young people invest in companies that are green and are socially conscious, then it could make sense to make an investment account or an investment opportunity for them to invest in these companies tax-free as a way to sort of push more money towards companies that are sustainable and are environmentally friendly. Now, like I said earlier in the video, the government's also going to give us more information about the money they've been spending to implement the programs that have been supporting many Canadians, chief among which is the CRB, or the Canada Recovery Benefit. Depending on how those numbers work into this fiscal update, we could see whether or not it's more or less likely that they're planning on extending these benefits or have some sort of plan to deal with the upcoming CRB Blackout, which I talk about on the channel a lot, which is the time around March where if you've been applying for the CRB since the start, your benefits are going to be cut off and there's going to be at least 6 months with no benefits. So it could provide some clues as to whether they're planning or thinking about this date. But ultimately, we're not going to know for sure until they release this fiscal statement or this sort of budget update. It's not going to be a full budget, but we are going to get some information. They said that they were expecting to give it out by the end of November, but some sources have been saying that this could be pushed to the first week of December because I guess people in the government are dealing with this upcoming second wave that seems to be on everybody's minds. But I'm curious what you have to say about all this. What do you think should be included in this fiscal update? Do you think the programs that are currently out there are sufficient or more than enough for people? Or do you think that there should be a little bit more spending that goes directly to Canadians? Or are there other categories that you think should be dealt with that haven't been talked about in this video or in the mainstream media? Either way, let me know down below what you think about it. And of course, if you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because I'm bringing updates like this all the time that could help you out and could give you a better idea on where this country is going and how to manage your money to get ahead of the game. And if you have any friends or family members that could benefit from learning what could be coming down the pipeline, make sure you send this video their way too. And with all of that said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope that this information has helped you out. And remember, I'm going to be bringing you the updates and the information when it comes down the pipeline in terms of this update. So when I hear something, you're going to hear it too. And with all that said, I'll see you guys next time.